The morning they find Peder Haugen, the temperature is 4 to 4 below. And climbing, Marta Solberg is the one who finds him. She has walked 300 yards through the post-blizzard snow with Eric beside her because they saw no smoke from Peder's chimney. The cabin door is not even locked. It swings open on the wind, and the cold pours out like water. There is Peder in his chair beside a cold stove. Sitting as if he has fallen asleep waiting for things to get better, he has firewood, a full quarter cord stacked against the south wall. And Peder Haugen is dead, anyway, a timber frame cabin in a 6-day blizzard at 4 to 4 below will find ways to leak heat faster than any wood stove can replace. Marta walks home beside Eric and says the house is wrong. We have always been fighting the winter when we should be hiding. 8 years later, Eric, 3 years in the ground, Marta Solberg starts to dig into the gray October earth. She is not digging a root cellar or a well. She is digging a trench 8 feet deep. She digs right beside the house that the bank has been eyeing since Eric's funeral. She digs with a pickaxe and a wooden spade with a deliberateness that looks like concentrated work. Her neighbor, Bertram Glasscock, stops at the fence and watches for a long time. What in the Sam Hill, he says. Finally, are you doing, Mrs. Solberg? Collecting, digging. She does not look up. Pipes, he repeats. You're digging a pipe trench in October. Iron pipe through a stone trench 8 feet down the ground is 40 degrees year, and I'm going to move that heat into the house. Bertram looks at the trench and the massive pile of creek stones she assorted. You aim to heat your house with rocks, with heat stored in rocks. Yes, Mrs. Solberg, he says gently. Iron pipes freeze. You know that better than I do. A pipe at 8 feet in January is a frozen pipe, then a cracked pipe, then you've got a ditch of junk. Firewood gets a person through winter. Peder Haugen had both. Marta says Bertram does not have an answer. The story reached Lander Creek, becoming a ritual of grief or buried treasure. Callum Glasscock tells 3 boys at the store, and they laugh loudly. Marta hears them and does not stop. She has 40 feet of pipe. She has a stone firebox to build and is running out of October. She needs you to understand what she is building and why it will work. The science is older than Montana and the cabin that killed Peder Haugen. The problem with a timber cabin in serious cold is not the wood. The problem is thermal mass, the capacity to absorb and store heat. Without density, the cabin returns to the temperature of the air. Heat leaves through every gap in the chinking, down every draft. You chase it all winter with firewood until you run out or fall asleep. Stone and earth do not behave this way. They drink that heat. This is why Romans built hypocausts and Koreans built their ondol farmhouses in Vaga, Norway, were built into hillsides with back walls buried in earth and floors of stone. These houses were warm in a way no timber frame on the Bitterroot Valley has ever been. She knows only Vaga and Peder, her 40 feet of iron pipe and 8 years of survival thoughts. The design includes a hillside firebox of stone and clay with a salvaged barn's iron door. Iron pipes run through the sloped trench packed with 500 pounds of precisely fitted creek stones. Hot air travels through the pipes, transferring heat from the iron into the dense heat-retaining stone mass. The floor laid above the trench warms from below, heating where the person is, not the ceiling. The math worked out over 3 years. 8 feet deep, the earth holds 40 degrees regardless of surface temperature. The stone mass stores enough heat to warm the floor for 24 hours after one single firing in a serious Montana winter. It's the difference between Peder's frozen chair and walking out the other side. October starts. The ground is hard but reluctant, the pickaxe biting into the soil before it turns hostile. Her hands blister, callous and crack as temperatures drop. She wraps them in wool strips and keeps digging. The pile of excavated earth beside the house grows, eventually rising high above her weary head. Bertram returns with his wife Dora. She is kinder, but shares his skepticism about Marta's impossible project. Marta explains the system: thermal mass, convective flow, and the science of specific heat and the frost line. Dora and Bertram exchange a look. The pipes will freeze. Bertram repeats, at 40 below everything freezes. The frost line is 5 feet. My pipes are 8 feet down. You've burned your winter on a pipe dream. Bertram says after they leave, she keeps digging into the December earth. A crow girl named Strikes Water appears in the light. The clay joints are too thin. They will crack. Marta gives her the pointing trowel. They work through December without talking much. This suits both of them. January brings a 10-day stretch of 30 below and 3 revelations. The firebox door leaks more heat than she calculated. At extreme temperatures, the stone mass is losing heat too quickly at the far end of the pipe run, and strikes water is better at reading the behavior of the system. She packs clay and straw. Insulation around the firebox door frame. She reconfigures the exhaust vent angle to steepen the convective draw. She adds 6 inches to the stone shelf. Inside the firebox, worst differential 51 degrees between the floor and outside air. She writes it down and looks at it. A long-time Bertram sends Callum. His third cord of firewood is gone. The February storm arrives with a particular cloudless white sky. Strikes water, brings word 4 or 5 days of cold. It will be the worst in 20 years, she says. Marta spends Wednesday firing the system for 8 hours straight. She repairs a hairline crack in the clay trench cap. At midnight, the thermometer reads 4 degrees below zero. Thursday is 22. Below, the cold sits on the chest. By evening, the floor reads 48 degrees, outside 31, below a 7 to 9 degree differential before the wind even starts. Friday morning, the wind starts. Screaming across the valley, it begins as a low sound from the northwest, what Peder Haugen called the wolf wind. By 10, it has stopped being weather and become pure force, an indifferent cold voice. The temperature drops through 38 below through 4 to 4. The snow moves horizontal. At noon, it is 49 below. At 2, the thermometer reads 52. She cannot go out to the firebox now. The wind is 60 miles an hour. She runs the small wood stove. With the last of her indoor wood, she sits on the floor. The floor reads 4 to 3 degrees outside. It is 52 below zero outside Bertram. Glasscock is discovering the geometry of a timber frame cabin at 52 below. It is not a gentle discovery. Bertram, Dora, and the 4 children are crowded around the cookstove wearing their coats. Hats and wool blankets indoors. The walls flex in the wind drafts. Find the gaps, and the cold pours through them like smoke in reverse. At 2 in the afternoon, the temperature inside the glasscock kitchen drops to 31 degrees. Bess is in Dora's arms, and Bess is not crying. Her lips have gone the color of a winter sky. Dora holds the baby against her chest, breathing on her face. She needs to be warmer than this. Bertram adds wood to the stove. There is not much left in the bin. 2 miles west, Widow Calloway loads her family onto a sled and drives toward Lander Creek. Her house becomes a block of ice, every pipe frozen, the stovepipe packed with blown-in ice. Old man Teske on the ridge does not know in time he is 6 to 7 years old. By Saturday morning, he is sitting in his chair beside a cold stove waiting for things to get better. Marta knows only what her thermometer tells her. On Friday evening, her floor is 4 to 2 degrees. The differential is 9 to 4 degrees. She is alive, and her fingers still work. She falls asleep on the floor. Friday night. Saturday is the worst. The temperature outside drops to 52 and holds there with the specific stubbornness of a storm that is not finished. The wind clears 6 to 5 miles per hour, and something in it changes. It is no longer just cold moving through the valley. It is cold that has decided to stay, a presence that knows it has all the time in the world. The sound of it is the sound of a world without human beings in it. The wind creates a back pressure in the exhaust vent. The problem, she and strikes water, diagnosed in December. She tries to fire the firebox at 7 in the morning. Smoke pushes back down through the pipe joints. She closes the firebox door and does not try again. She cannot add to the stone mass's heat reserve. She can only watch it spend what it has saved. She runs the wood stove on her last indoor wood. She sits on the floor because the floor is warm. The stone mass is still releasing heat. The release is slow, steady, the way a river gives water to the sea continuously without drama. They hold, and then they let go slowly. In a storm that wants everything slowly is enough. The floor reads 37 degrees. The inhabited air where a person breathes reads 4 to 3. She can see her breath. Her fingers are stiff. She wears everything wool and Eric's old sheepskin vest. She breathes slowly for most of Saturday to do something besides calculate the hours. Until Sunday, she is alive outside. This is not a guaranteed condition. She writes stone mass, holding 37 degrees F floor at 52 degrees F outside system. Viable redesign required. She closes the journal and sits with her back against the warm floor waiting for Sunday morning. The wind drops. The temperature rises to 29 below. She fires the firebox. By noon, the floor is 4 to 5 degrees. She makes coffee and drinks it standing up. She is looking out the window when she sees Bertram coming through the hard, clear post-storm light. He moves slowly through 3-foot snow, looking like a man who hasn't been warm in 2 days. She opens the door. Warmth moves past her, hitting Bertram like someone stepping from shade into sunlight. He steps inside, registering warmth coming up. Through the floor with no visible fire to explain it. Your fire went out, he says, last night. She replies, watching him finally understand. He crouches down and puts his palm flat on the pine boards. Marta watches his face. It is a man feeling what he told a woman for months was impossible, understanding faster than his mind. He stays crouched for a long time. How warm, he says. Finally, he is speaking quietly. She holds up the thermometer. 41 degrees, floor surface 29, below it was 52 yesterday afternoon. Bertram does the arithmetic with his palm on the floor. 93 degrees, he says. He stands up slowly, a big man humbled by an important truth. Bess, he says, our youngest, her lips went blue yesterday afternoon. Dora held her through the night. She's pink this morning. But it was a near thing. Marta, I need to know how to build this. Bertram says, when Dora's hands are better, bring her. And I'll show you both her hands. Frostbite, both. She'll get the feeling back. He nods. He stands in her warm house for another minute, feeling the ghost of the floor temperature. I told people you'd gone crazy. He says, I said it more than once. I told Callum the same. He passed it along. I know. Marta says, I was wrong. You were, she says, simply not unkind. He puts his hat back on and is almost to the door when he turns. Peder, he says, you mentioned Peder Haugen back in October. You knew then. I knew then. How long had you known? He asks. She thinks about the walk home from Peder's cabin 8 years back. Since I found him, she says. He goes. She watches him cross the field in the hard winter light back toward his house. Strikes waters. Family sends 2 elders in March to see the system. They have been building earth lodges for generations on the same principle. Thermal mass. They want to see what Marta added. Specifically the buried pipe exchange. The conversation happens in 2 languages and is the best Marta has had since Eric died. She thinks about Eric in the spring, his writing, and Peder's cabin. She thinks he would have had better ideas for the exhaust, baffle, and loop. He is the kind of man worth grieving, and building things in memory of what she built is not a miracle. It is simple ancient physics. Earth at 8 feet holds 40 degrees. Dense stone holds proportional heat. None of these are secrets. Only facts available to anyone who thinks. The difference is that she thought about them in October before she needed them in the daylight of a season that still had room for digging before the storm arrived. She tells this to Callum Glasscock while she packs his pipe joints with clay. She tells it to the widow Calloway in the language of stone weight and trench depth. She tells the elders at the winter camp, through Strikes Waters' translation, the house that fights the winter belongs to a man who believes his will is stronger. The house that goes below has measured the cold and decided to go somewhere it cannot follow. $4 to $7 in the coffee tin. By June, the bank sends no more letters. The pipes are still there, running there. Slow exchange through 500 pounds of fitted stone. The fire goes out, and the stones go on holding quietly without needing anyone to believe.